kita itu mungkin kalau even secara pribadi ya, kita kan memang selalu di-encourage untuk not just to save money but also to invest. Why? Gitu. Karena saving money ya, let's say you go put your money in time deposit, in savings, segala macam, earn so much interest. When you invest, actually by investing, there is also an opportunity for you to earn a yield that's a lot better. Something that would, bring you to the next level.
Sobat semua, selamat datang di Dunia Pro, podcast pertama di Indonesia untuk profesional dan eksekutif. Hari ini kita kedatangan tamu istimewa, teman saya Alvin Tholib. Beliau adalah banker, pernah bekerja sebagai commercial banker maupun investment banker, mengawali karirnya pertama dengan Standard Chartered di Treasury and Global Markets. Terus setelah itu beliau bekerja di Bank Danamon, dengan posisi senior di Global Markets and Treasury. Beliau juga pernah bekerja di Goldman Sachs, US Investment Bank, sebagai coverage investment banking untuk Indonesia. Dan kurang lebih dari sekitar 10 tahun yang lalu, beliau juga beliau punya investment advisory firm, Panasian Investama. Beliau ada di studio hari ini untuk menemani saya untuk ngobrol-ngobrol mengenai dunia investment, dunia mergers and acquisitions, dan relevansinya dengan ekonomi di Indonesia pada saat ini. Selamat datang, Bro Alvin, apa kabar?
Kabar baik, thank you atas opportunity-nya untuk join podcast ini juga.
Ya, senang ketemu sama Bro Alvin nih. Kita ngobrol-ngobrol sebentar ya.
Boleh, santai-santai aja.
Santai-santai.
Iya. Soalnya kalau nggak dibawa santai, topik ini jadi terlalu boring. Jadi
terlalu boring.
Ya.
Betul. Ya. Ya, mungkin bisa cerita sedikit ya, karena kalau saya lihat karirnya Bro Alvin ini kan awalnya itu lebih banyak di bank komersial, lebih banyak ke treasury gitu ya. Terus ceritanya bagaimana tuh bisa loncat ke bank investasi atau investment bank?
Ya. Well, kalau boleh dibilang commercial banking dan juga treasury sebenarnya bidangnya ya bergulat tetap ke dunia finance ya. Jadi saya dulu dimulai sebagai trader di treasury dan kita dealing dengan financial market seputar foreign exchange, interest rate, bond market dan lain sebagainya. Tapi at the same time alongside with the career movement, akhirnya saya juga end up untuk memanage balance sheet dari bank itu sendiri. Ya, jadi dan sewaktu itu kita juga banyak opportunity untuk bertemu dengan banyak investment banker yang dari luar juga, global investment bankers datang ke Indonesia, bicara kita mengenai bagaimana memanage balance sheet daripada bank. Mereka juga offer produk. Jadi saya sebelumnya boleh dibilang I was on the buy side actually, looking at the various investment products, whether it's a matter of like management of the balance sheet, kalau kita mau melakukan bond issuance seperti kayak gimana, melakukan equity issuance seperti kayak gimana, right issue dan lain sebagainya. Nah, jadi juga ada sedikit interest lah, curiosity juga to be on the other side. That's how actually when the opportunity came about to join an investment bank in Singapore, ya saya masuk ke sana gitu. Nah, sejak saat itu lebih banyak bergelut di dunia investment banking, became like a lot more interesting. Ada merger acquisition advisory-nya, ada juga ngomongin tentang fundraising dan lain sebagainya. Nah, itu become like sesuatu yang malahan jadi I find my natural habitat, I would say, in investment banking.
Buat banyak pemirsa di rumah, mungkin mereka agak asing dengan istilah investment bank atau commercial bank. Kalau buat Bro Alvin sendiri, kira-kira main difference-nya apa antara investment bank sama commercial bank?
Kalau commercial bank itu mungkin kita lebih umum ya, kita dibicarakan di sini mengenai kayak banking relationship antara misal kita sebagai perusahaan, korporasi, kita bicara dengan bank, kita mendapatkan pinjaman dari bank, kita juga pergi ke bank untuk untuk cash management account-nya dan lain sebagainya kalau korporasi. Dan kalau kita sebagai perorangan, kita juga pergi ke bank kan buat taruh deposito, buat tabungan dan juga kadang juga meminjam gitu dari sana. Nah, investment banking ini lebih seputar I would say corporate action yang dilakukan oleh bank itu sendiri, yang mungkin sifatnya lebih strategic in nature. Misalnya contohnya, kalau misalnya orang Indonesia tuh ngomong investment banking, boleh dibilang banyak yang mikirnya investment banking is the same as going to the capital market. Misalnya going IPO, for example. Yang biasanya kalau misalnya kita secara bicara dengan orang awam, kita bilang kalau misalnya dijelasin, itu investment banking apa sih? Oke, kamu tahu kan misalnya people go public. Nah, itu investment banking. Tapi sebenarnya investment banking goes beyond just IPO. Sometimes it's a matter of kayak merger and acquisition, di mana kita menggabungkan perusahaan A, perusahaan B, dan mereka ada strategic yang cocoknya gitu ya untuk kedua perusahaan itu untuk bergabung dan lain sebagainya. Nah, itu dilakukan oleh kita investment banking. Ya.
Tapi mungkin kalau investment bank itu tidak terlalu banyak kredit ya Pak. Walaupun mungkin ada ya, tapi mungkin tidak sebanyak seperti commercial bank ya.
Ya, umumnya orang bilang commercial banking kredit. Sebenarnya investment banking juga ada kreditnya, tapi mungkin kreditnya itu lebih sifatnya private credit, dan yang memberikan kreditnya itu juga bukan hanya bank, tapi juga misalnya funds, yaitu seperti hedge fund, private credit funds, dan lain sebagainya. Tapi secara umum memang investment banking banyak bicara seputar equity market gitu. Ya.
Kalau cara mereka make money-nya Pak, antara commercial bank sama investment bank, bedanya apa?
Commercial banking mungkin kita bicara mengenai umumnya net interest margin. Jadi antara kita lending money, kita juga raising money, liability third party funds-nya itu. Terus the net interest margin, atau sedikit juga mungkin beberapa commercial bank juga agak merembet-rembet ke so-called corporate finance, investment banking, ada fee income. Nah, kalau investment banking per se, a lot of time it's more fee income dulu gitu. Memang kadang-kadang dalam proses mereka melakukan fundraising dan juga investment banking, selain daripada fee income itu, mereka juga kadang-kadang memakai mereka punya balance sheet untuk lending money juga gitu sebagai investment bank. Nah, mirip-mirip tapi agak ada sedikit perbedaan di sana.
Oke.
Ya.
Okay. Jadi waktu Pak Alvin pindah ke Goldman Sachs itu based di Singapura tapi cover company di Indonesia.
Iya, lebih cover ke company di Indonesia karena ya kita bicara jadi kayak Goldman Sachs itu kan memang global investment banking firm yang lumayan terkenal di luar, tapi at the same time yang namanya Indonesia ya is a market that people will not want to miss gitu kan. Ya jadinya mereka juga mau masuk ke Indonesia. That's where you need to have like somebody who would be able to have like a good understanding of the Indonesian market. Kita juga punya know-how, dan sesudah itu jadinya mereka juga mau appoint somebody who would help with the coverage and also istilahnya origination of the deals gitu di sini. Ya.
Susah nggak masuk Goldman Sachs Pak?
Wah, kalau dibilang susah relatif, tapi saya rasa sih kalau misalnya dibicara dari segi selama saya berkarir, ya itu salah satu yang paling susah ya. Ke sana. Mungkin dari segi kayak proses rekrutmennya itu sendiri ya. Jadi
panjang ya?
Panjang, dan it's gotta be like anonymous, like kita interviewnya sampai mungkin pada saat saya interview waktu itu saya interview dengan seenggaknya 12 orang gitu. Dan 12 orang itu semuanya juga harus punya yes vote,
konsensus ya?
Bukan konsensus, tapi unanimous. Semuanya harus yes. Jadi nggak boleh ada yang istilahnya yang enggak gitu.
Oke.
Ya.
Oke. Ya. Kalau konsensus ada kompromi berarti.
Ada kompromi. Mungkin 10 dari 12 oke, atau majority oke gitu.
Oke.
Mungkin di sana dan interviewernya kan pastinya juga coba interviewnya from different perspective, and also these people mungkin kalau di Goldman Sachs itu kan mereka DNA-nya itu berangkat dari kayak partnership ya. Sebelum Goldman Sachs IPO juga, mereka adalah partnership. Dan partnership itu jadi mereka tuh sangat kental gitu. Kita bicara mengenai, walaupun kita masuk ke bagian tertentu, tapi kita juga harus ada different parts of Goldman Sachs people interviewing you gitu. Jadi you would have people from the equity market, people from the debt market, people from compliance, people from different parts lah of Goldman Sachs gitu, yang juga harus interview. Jadi maybe they try to see also at the same time how you would be able to interact with the different parts of the bank, how you would be able to synergize, leveraging the different parts of Goldman Sachs, bring it to the table to our clientele, basically. Yeah.
Ada pertanyaan yang striking nggak pada saat interview yang bikin gelagapan gitu loh?
Bikin gelagapan, waduh, itu udah berapa lama?
Udah lama banget.
Udah lama sekali proses interview. I think it's not so much about like specific questions, but I think it was as much a process of discovery for myself in terms of like how you'd be able to, think about it from different perspectives. At the same time, you would be able to pull different parts, different resources to provide a solution to somebody, to your client, for example. And I think through the interview itself, it actually gives me personally a way to, cover, a way to provide solutions, a way to have like teamwork around you, that not everything is, you don't need to be the know-all of, but you would be able to harness as well, gitu kan. Kita bisa pakai resources dari si A, si B, si C, dan juga bagaimana cara kita melakukannya, akhirnya with a view to kind of like provide solutions. Yeah. So that part I would say bukan yang bikin gelagapan, tapi at the same time it gives me a bit of like, it is amazing, yeah. There is this difference, and I guess this is the difference that stands out, that makes Goldman Sachs what it is gitu.
Institusinya kan legendary ya, Pak. Apa sih value mereka tuh yang stand out gitu, yang membedakan gitu dengan banyak institusi lain? Maksudnya, Bro Alvin kan pernah kerja dengan Global Commercial Bank juga gitu loh. Yang terasa beda banget itu apa?
I would say it's the same spirit of like collaboration, that you would see whether you are inside Goldman Sachs or even after you've left Goldman Sachs, right? To the point where mereka itu masih maintain istilahnya networknya even for those people who have left Goldman Sachs, and the thinking is that a lot of them misalnya sesudah left Goldman Sachs, they set up their own company, they set up their own funds. A lot of that actually happens, and some of them actually become very good clients of Goldman Sachs juga gitu contohnya. Jadi it's more that relationship, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Waktu itu Bro Alvin join pada saat sebelum financial crisis atau sudah financial crisis?
Actually,
itu ya?
Financial crisisnya kan banyak ya. Saya join
2008.
2008, that was the Lehman crisis. I joined after, which is 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And didn't go through 2008 di Goldman, tapi 2008 I went through with Danamon previously.
Okay. Yeah. Nah, terus what make you decided to leave Goldman Sachs?
I saw a very good opportunity, a very niche opportunity, I would say, in terms of the market that is available in Indonesia. I mean, I was covering Indonesia, then at the same time, while I was in Goldman, I had the opportunity to basically also look at the investment world. Ketemu dengan, belajar banyak mengenai private equity firms, how we're going to be like structuring deals, private deals and things like that. And there is also a market that is istilahnya could be outside of capital market gitu. Jadi sometimes you say it's a pre-IPO opportunity. Jadi nggak semua mungkin ada step-step khusus even before you go to bring your company to go public, for example. Yeah, and that opens up opportunity. And at the same time di Indonesia juga sedang waktunya itu momennya ada di mana misalnya beberapa private equity firms juga baru mulailah di Indonesia gitu ya. Dan it gives Indonesian corporates, I would say, an alternative to capital market in a way. Yeah, so that's where I'm really referring to private equity dan juga different types of funds that would be able to give corporates alternative. Gitu. Selain daripada misalnya hanya go to banking for loan atau misalnya stepnya saya go public yuk gitu ke IPO. Sebenarnya there is actually somewhere in between. You call it alternative because it's not mainstream yet, but I think it was also an inflection point at the time when there is a lot of people who don't know much yet about private equity. Tapi I see that it would actually be, a good way for them to understand, see whether it is relevant untuk their specific situations or not, gitu. Nah, that's where, I saw that opportunity. I come back to Indonesia, gitu. Indonesia juga lagi, boleh dibilang lagi bagus-bagus juga kan, memang growth-nya juga bagus, right about like 2013, 2014, gitu.
Okay. How has Panasiam evolved, Pak, dari pertama berdiri sampai sekarang?
Okay, set up the company around 2014 by myself. It has evolved quite a lot, I would say. I went through the time when I have to set up the company and try recruiting people as well. For example, obviously, it is a challenge because at the same time, namanya kita startup ya, istilahnya baru mulai, kita mau hire orang juga, to what extent, people would really buy into your story about these opportunities that are available in the market, that we are here to provide the services. Yeah, but over time, I think we have evolved quite a bit. Yeah, in terms of, let's say, one good indication will be in terms of the hiring of the people. Yeah, to what extent people are a lot more open to be talking to us. In fact, they are interested in joining Panasiam as well. Gitu. Karena I guess it's a product of many things. It's a product of the market itself, how the market has evolved in itself. That misalnya M&A and private equity types of transaction become like a lot more mainstream, I would say. Itu satu. Kedua juga, we see that there are ways for us to recruit people who are interested in joining us because there is a certain approach that we have in Panasiam towards like providing solutions for our clients gitu. Nah, itu juga gives them an opportunity to kind of like learn it gitu, to join us to learn it, and at the same time to be able to contribute as well gitu. Yeah. Okay. Evolve-nya agak seperti itu sih. Of course, from the point of view of misalnya performance-nya sendiri, dari business performance-nya sendiri dari Panasiam, we start off with, namanya investment banking kan, we're talking about trust element is very important. You deal with clients yang istilahnya lagi ngomongin tentang bukan, saya hanya mau meminjam uang dari institusi, tapi kita ngomong tentang merger and acquisition, right? Kita ngomongin tentang mereka juga melakukan fundraising, mereka juga mau melakukan, misalnya mungkin mau dalam proses itu berarti ada partner baru yang masuk ke kepemilikan saham daripada perusahaannya mereka. Just imagine, I mean, you're talking about mereka ini dulunya adalah family run company gitu, atau mereka juga nggak tahu gimana sih kalau misalnya ada partner baru yang juga jadi partner dan jadi pemegang saham lainnya gitu di perusahaannya mereka. And this company is a baby to them, right? It's their own baby, very precious gitu. The process itself of educating them about like, hey, it's not such a bad thing. It's like it depends on how you'd be able to arrange the various transaction with the potential investors coming in. Ini step-stepnya seperti kayak gimana? Secara strategik apakah itu make sense or not itu untuk company-nya untuk melakukan ini. Ya mungkin kamu bisa aja pergi ke bank, tapi kan sometime when you want to raise fund, it's not so much just about like getting money from other people, but it's more also about like it is in the spirit of partnership gitu kan, sama-sama yuk kita bangun perusahaan ini. There is actually a certain opportunity, growth opportunity that we are talking about. You bring in a partner, the partner can be a private equity firm, the partner can be another strategic investors coming in. Tapi seenggaknya bagaimana kita menyelaraskan gitu kan, align the vision, align the growth strategies and so on and so forth. Talk about the book itself, the book of the accounting, the financial statements, stuff like that. So it's a combination of technical stuff, I would say. You know, you look into the book, you pour into the book, you understand the book of the perusahaan. At the same time, yang lebih pentingnya juga you have a common understanding and alignment gitu mengenai what to do dengan company ini, dengan partner yang baru misalnya contohnya gitu. Nah itu yang saya rasa sangat penting, dan that's where it's not just technical stuff, but it's also a lot of yang tadi ya kita ngomongin tentang bagaimana kita establish relationship, gimana kita understand it from the other side as well, and that's where we come in and kind of like provide advice of how it is out there. Gitu. Yeah.
Okay. Saya pernah baca buku ya Pak, itu kalau nggak salah yang tulis konsultan dari McKinsey. Jadi dia bilang some of the best performing companies, bukan some, majority of the best performing companies gitu in the world gitu ya. Mereka secara teratur invest dan divest. Jadi mereka beli company, mereka jual company gitu ya, untuk maintain growth dan performance gitu loh. Kalau di Indonesia triggernya apa, Bro Alvin, sampai mereka memutuskan untuk buying atau selling?
Actually I don't know whether we're talking about the same book, tapi sebenarnya
CEO Excellence juga.
Oh, CEO Excellence, okay.
Termasuk buku baru juga sih.
Intinya, I think it's more about like how if you were like doing this thing in a serial manner ya, kayak akhirnya udah jadi kayak satu seri lah gitu, akhirnya tahu the ins and outs, the difficulties, the challenges, and how beautiful things can be if you're doing it properly, then you become like very good at it. Kalau di Indonesia sendiri, terus terang kalau ngomong tentang M&A, memang istilahnya lebih banyak kita ada different levels ya. I cannot generalize for everybody. Misalnya contohnya there will be like the big corporations, the big group, for example, and I think this is where they have already learned their ropes basically. They understood it like the book said it is gitu kan. Sometimes you would need to be able to acquire by another company, for example. Why? Because sometimes you want to buy that company for the purposes of like going into a certain market. Misalnya contohnya, the market can be bukan berarti market dalam negeri, market luar negeri ya, tapi can be like a certain sector, a certain market. You want to buy capabilities and so on and so forth. It's a lot better for you to buy it, for example, rather than developing it on your own. Kita ngomong tentang trade-off lah antara waktu kita, resources kita, lebih baik. It's not that easy, for example, to build brand, right? Mendingan kita, we'll talk about like buying a company, for example. And at the same time, they also talk about pruning. Pruning meaning, nanti secara satu portfolio nih, kita udah satu big group portfolio kita, akhirnya does it make sense gitu, untuk apakah ada synergistic value-nya? Does it make sense for me to have all these different companies in our portfolio? Whether it creates some sort of like a platform, in which case then there's a lot of synergy, there's a lot of efficiency, there can be like benefits of scale, and so on and so forth. If not, then maybe what you need to do adalah to dispose, to sell, gitu, to prune it, gitu. Kadang-kadang ya istilahnya sama seperti kayak pohon ya, kan kalau namanya dia mau berkembang, mau lebih rimbun apa segala macam juga kadang-kadang juga harus dipotong-potong
harus
juga,
di-trim,
gitu.
Yeah.
Harus di-trim, harus
Yeah.
di-prune.
Betul.
Nggak setiap kali istilahnya kita cuma mencangkok aja gitu, nih pohon baru dicangkokin lagi, cangkokin lagi, gitu. And I think that is a very important way to think about, gitu. Sebagai itu yang tadi pohon yang mau berkembang lebih lanjut dan tumbuh lebih lanjut, dan juga bagaimana kita juga harus melihat secara keseluruhan, secara strategik mengenai kita punya portfolio. If we were a big group, nah, what happened if you were like, let's say, a family-run company, traditional? We've been in this company has been with the family for generations, for example. There could be issues related to succession, kesannya gitu. Oh, ini perusahaan yang kesannya mungkin anak-anaknya generasi selanjutnya nggak mau ngelanjutin lagi, misalnya contohnya. Atau mungkin dalam beberapa situasi kayak I need to go to I want to go to the next level for my company. Gitu. Maksudnya apa sih dengan naik the next level? Next level itu bisa ngomongin tentang, saya mau dong nanti suatu hari saya punya company juga bisa jadi perusahaan TBK. Saya mau perusahaan saya ini juga suatu hari itu bakalan lebih sustain, bakalan long term banget gitu. It should be many generations gitu. Jangan hanya sampai
dilestarikan
gitu. Contohnya. Nah, in which case then probably you can think about it in different ways. One would be maybe to professionalize the company. We encountered a lot of cases whereby company intinya I want to be like that, melestarikan perusahaan saya supaya nanti buat multi generation dan lain sebagainya. Tapi caranya gimana sih gitu? Salah satu caranya adalah of course depends on the people, right? Whether the people is the family, terus-terusan adalah family, nanti anak saya, nanti cucu saya, dan lain selanjutnya. Apakah itu adalah orang yang penting yang professional? Ownership can be a separate consideration altogether. In which case, tapi yang penting professional dulu gitu. Perusahaan ini di running secara professional dan lain sebagainya. In which case, then how do we professionalize a company? And I see banyak perusahaan-perusahaan yang memang intensinya mau ke sana, mau professionalize the company. Tapi at the same time, bro mungkin juga tahu ya, kayak misalnya kadang-kadang when we are trying to hire professionals, there is a bit of difficulty kalau misalnya joining so-called family-run business gitu. Dimana, saya mau di-hire sebagai CFO, tapi at the same time, I'll be facing the grandpa who is the CEO, the father who is like misalnya marketingnya segala macam yang in charge of sales and marketing. Udah gitu nanti ada cousinnya, ada siapanya semua yang doing different function, and then suddenly I'm supposed to be there and kind of like bring about changes, so-called professionalize it gitu. Nah, then so what can we do about it? Things like that. And I guess that's where we also have a certain approach to doing this. Of course, it requires us to understand specific situation in company. Kita ngobrol sama mereka, sebenarnya situasinya kayak gimana sih? Sebenarnya secara company ini growth opportunity-nya di mana sih, gitu kan? Dan juga kalau memang di mana-mana juga akhirnya, even if there is a good opportunities, it takes someone, it takes like people to be able to execute, right? Nah, kalau kita mau untuk profesional supaya lestari perusahaannya segala macam, maybe we should in a way think about bringing in professional investor atau institutional investor masuk supaya they would also be able to bring something to the table. What is it that they bring to the table? They bring a good understanding of how the business is being run outside. kesannya nih saya lagi promoin private equity ya, tapi intinya misalnya contohnya institutional investor seperti PE, mereka masuk ke suatu perusahaan karena di sektor tertentu, karena mereka sebelumnya juga pernah invest di tempat-tempat lain yang similar sector. They understand the so-called company ini dulu ambil inisiatif apa, strategi apa, terus akhirnya work or not and things like that. And because like they want to invest in your company, they would be able to bring this kind of experience over to your company, right? And at the same time, typically then as a professional, when we start to look out for new professional, then mereka juga akan lebih terbuka ya. Oh ya, akhirnya nih I'm not just going to be dealing with the grandpa, the father, the uncle, and the cousin and things like that, but I'm dealing also with institutional, because it shows that the company is going to be like going a lot more institutional, a lot more corporatized. Then we start talking about like governance of the company and things like that. Kita sebagai profesionalnya juga waktu masuk istilahnya jadi lebih comfortable. You basically know what a corporatized company is like, misalnya contohnya. And this is a way for you to get your company corporatized with the help of somebody who actually not just coming in and joining your company, but somebody who bring in money and bring in expertise and experience. So that's one way I would say. And that can bring about yang tadi kita ngomongin ya, M&A opportunities yang ada. Dasar-dasarnya sebenarnya the philosophical thinking is about that. Gitu. As to specific situationnya ya beda-beda ya dari satu company ke yang lain ya. Contohnya dari segi ada company yang you want to basically I have a very good product already, for example, but then the thinking is like, hey, I have one very good product to sell to a consumer, but then again I also want to diversify and go develop other products, other verticals in my business. For me, to basically go into this new products, it's not as simple as doing the same thing with the existing champion product that I have. Nah, gimana caranya untuk develop that second product, that third product, gitu? Maybe what you need to do adalah, find partner, find someone who would be able to help you, and that's where the M&A thinking also comes in. Yeah.
Bukan cuma uang ya Pak?
Bukan cuma uang, justru.
Kalau uang mungkin mereka nggak perlu, gitu loh.
Uang biasanya, kalau boleh dibilang, saya kan lebih banyak dealing dengan the so-called growth companies. So growth companies meaning the market is good for them, the company is growing nicely, gitu. So kalau dibilang in such companies, typically they make a lot of money, they are very profitable. Uang ya ada lah untuk mereka berkembang lebih lanjut, gitu. Tapi kalau misalnya kita mau invite partner masuk, ya berarti partner itu juga jangan cuma bawa uang. Kalau bawa uang aja juga, mungkin juga saya bisa go to the bank and just borrow money, for example.
True. Kalau mengenai valuation ataupun pricing ya, nilai saham perusahaan dan sebagainya itu kan very debatable juga ya, Pak Alvin ya. Manage-nya gimana tuh? Dua pihak yang sama-sama punya interest, tapi juga sama-sama punya ego gitu loh.
I think valuation is always something yang seems to be like one of the most important thing that someone thinks about gitu when it comes to considering a partner. Tapi yang penting itu mengenai valuation ya, we become very clear about what is that we want to go from here. How are we going to be growing the business? I think it's not so much just it is about the destination, kita grow-nya mau kemana, arah mana, as it is also about the how we gonna get there, the strategy itself, and also where we are. Jadi lebih ke company kita itu sebenarnya itu kayak gimana sih? What are the so-called, kalau kita mungkin sering dengarnya USP atau unique selling proposition-nya daripada company itu sendiri. Kalau saya mikirnya mungkin bukan hanya itu, tapi juga ngomong tentang capabilities-nya daripada company itu seperti kayak gimana. Nah, kalau misalnya kita udah lebih jelas capabilities dari company-nya itu kayak gimana, posisi kita tuh sebenarnya kayak gimana, bagaimana we are positioned to grow the business, for example, and we have like very good strategy. Good strategy meaning bukan hanya I know how to get there, but really going into the details about how you're going to go about implementing the strategy. And we know where we are. We understand, hey, this is the market that is big out there. This is the white space that we have that we can go to. Then it becomes clearer gitu to a potential misalnya buyer ya. Oh ya benar juga ya, istilahnya tuh fair lah kalau kita untuk masuk dengan valuasi sekian, karena valuasi sekian itu mencerminkan capabilities daripada company itu, posisi mereka, dan mereka very clear in terms of like how to get to the objective that they want. Kan dari sini growth-nya mau ke arah mana dan lain sebagainya. Nah, tentunya ini secara naratif. Nah, penting juga adalah mengenai finansialnya, gitu. Finansialnya adalah sekian. Terus biasanya tuh yang namanya evaluasi kan, ya kita ngomongin lah PE ratio-nya kayak gimana, kita punya EBITDA itu kayak gimana. Tapi yang pentingnya ada faktor pengalinya gitu kan, the multiplier-nya, multiple-nya itu berapa. Nah, kita juga akan sebagai suatu investment bank ya, seorang investment banker, we would also do a lot of benchmarking atau we do comparison dengan perusahaan-perusahaan sejenis yang ada di market gitu. Ya tentunya we as an investment banker would need to understand very well mengenai the company itself, mengenai sektornya, mengenai what are the prospects of the sector segala macam, and you start comparing it with another company. Most likely than not, these are listed company yang istilahnya harga mereka itu sudah terbentuk gitu di pasar. Ada buyer, ada seller segala macam terbentuk di pasar, adalah harganya segini, multiple-nya adalah segini. Jadi itu bisa kita jadiin sebagai benchmark. Tapi mind you, this is just a benchmark. Biasanya again, come back to the role of the investment banker to compare and then after that to position accordingly. Hey, you may be comparing this particular company with a listed company, tapi kalau dibanding-bandingin sama si Lisco itu, kita lebih baik di sini, kita kurang di sini. Jadi plus minusnya gimana, the overall narrative-nya kayak gimana, the overall strategy-nya gimana, the kind of relationship that we will be talking about with the investornya gimana, bagaimana investor sama si company-nya itu akan bisa bekerja sama untuk menggarap opportunity-nya. Nah, that's where we start talking about, the kind of multiple that we can bring for valuation purposes. Nah, kalau kita tahu sendiri kan, capital market mungkin ada faktor pengalinya yang tadi. Tapi, it is very different. You as an investor in public market, you are just investing and you're counting on the person to kind of like do their stuff gitu. In the case of valuation for the purposes of, let's say, the transaction that we're talking about, pasti banyak elemen-elemen lainnya yang istilahnya nggak ada di capital market, di public capital market. This is private, where there are a lot of bespoke arrangements that we would make, structuring of that, segala macam yang probably would make an opportunity to invest in a private company is very different from you as an investor looking into a public market. Ya, jadi mungkin nuances seperti ini ya yang kita harus bicarakan gitu sebagai how we gonna be helping our clients gitu as an investment banker.
Pertanyaan berikutnya ini sebagian juga Pak Alvin udah terangkan sedikit, tapi saya tanyakan lagi. Any tips untuk mereka yang looking to be untuk jual saham lah, gitu, untuk cari investor gitu lah. Ada tips khusus nggak?
Yeah, be very clear about your strategy. That's number one. And number two, you want to be on the driver's seat. In terms of, selecting, in terms of structuring the transaction, things like that. Well, if you are in a position to do that, all and well, you can start talking to the investor. Tapi ada faktor ketiga sih, which is related to how you would also need so-called somebody to be an interface between yourself and the potential investor. Karena there are times when you just need someone who would be, your so-called istilahnya sounding board, misalnya as you are brainstorming mengenai strateginya ini, how it is to be seen by an investor, gitu, misalnya contohnya. And then you also need someone who would be able to tell you what is the market like, how the investors behave, who are the investors that would be likely to be right for you, gitu contohnya. And I think that's the part where you probably need someone untuk to help, to advise. So that's the tips. Go hire yourself a very good investment banker. And what do I mean by good? Good will be someone who knows the market. Good will be someone that you can trust as well.
Okay. Kalau dari Pak Alvin sendiri, highs and lows sebagai investment banker, M&A advisor itu apa, Pak?
Well,
banyak window shoppers juga nggak sih?
Window shoppers dari segi kayak client talking to us segala macam, I would say that will always happen. I mean, there will be people who would like to be speaking with us to understand investment banking itu apa sih? Maksudnya, what kind of process are we talking about? What kind of advice we can give? We would say that is a learning process for us as well. As much as some people might see, hey, your advice shouldn't be free, but that at the same time, I think from every interaction that we do with our clients, different sectors, we also learn a lot. We learn a lot about the challenges that they face. We learn a lot about the sectors that they are in, and so on and so forth. Even from investor standpoint, juga sama juga kan. Kadang-kadang there are investors yang istilahnya seem to be like going to you and seems to be like very, very keen and interested in investing in, let's say, in an asset or in a company that we are helping, itu contohnya. Tapi kadang-kadang after a while they just go ghosting, gitu. Misalnya contoh ada yang seperti kayak gitu juga. Again, I think what we do about those adalah, or mungkin bukan what we do ya, tapi lebih ke sikap kita terhadap such possibilities adalah for us to also engage dengan investor-investor kita, institutional investor, for us to engage so that we can understand where they're coming from, gitu, mengenai tema-tema mereka mau masuk investasinya seperti kayak gimana. In fact, also understanding, misalnya contohnya investor-investor ini pengalaman mereka di various investments-nya itu di mana aja, kayak gimana, dan playbook apa sih yang mereka bisa share dengan kita. So, we can learn from them a lot actually. And this is part and parcel of the so-called matching process that we are doing also. Because our client also would like to understand investors yang mana yang cocok gitu, yang punya pengalaman tertentu dan lain sebagainya, gitu kan. And obviously, market is very dynamic, right? There are so many factors that come to play, gitu kan, in the market. Investment teams do change. Mungkin kalau misalnya contohnya many years ago, everybody comes to look to Indonesia and look to misalnya go into restaurant sectors, for example. Why? Because restaurant is a very good sector untuk mereka melihat sebagai proxy untuk consumer. Karena mereka suka Indonesia means consumer story, domestic consumption, things like that. Indonesia also means healthcare. Tapi sekarang kita juga lihat banyak sekali orang juga go to different other sectors. Not just not the usual traditional sectors like just financial services, just telco dan lain sebagainya. Tapi a lot of the deals that we are looking at now is also very very bespoke, lebih ke strategic driven gitu. Mereka mau masuk ke suatu company karena ada yang mereka cari, not just necessarily sectoral basis aja. Oh, even when you go to a certain sector, there is a certain tema gitu di sektor itu sendiri. When you talk about consumer, let's say, when we advise a consumer company to do it, gitu. Are we talking about consumer products? Are we talking about which one is more which one is more interesting this day? Consumer products saja, atau kita ngomongin tentang consumer product versus B2B type of products? Consumer product saja kah? Ataukah let's say experience also in the same consumer product? Is it just product? Is it just experience? All these things become like very very I would say thematic for consumer sector di Indonesia. Okay. Healthcare is another case in point. Apakah ngomong tentang healthcare products ataukah healthcare services, which is hospital. Misalnya, hospital has been a much sought after assets by investor. Kenapa gitu? Pasti kan ada tematiknya juga kita ngomong tentang Indonesia as a whole. We're talking about Indonesia, dia punya number of beds per populationnya very low. Jadi kan pasti bakalan adalah kebutuhan untuk hospitals. Tapi poinnya adalah what kind of hospitals that you'd like to invest in. Is it just the good hospitals? Maybe for some people are looking for very good, well-managed hospital that are in the market, and then after that mereka mau invest for further growth. Tapi ada juga orang yang ngelihatnya sebagai, hey, there are opportunities also in the cases of like hospital that is not as well managed. Tapi I will bring in an operator, a very good hospital management company along with my investment. In which case, then, hey, it can be a very good investment opportunity as well. Right. There are a lot of cases where, in the case of hospital, for example, where istilahnya mungkin secara historisnya gitu, dimulai dari generasi tertentu yang adalah dokter, terus dokter bersama-sama dengan dokter-dokter teman lainnya, dia bikin hospital juga. And after a while, then how are you going to be like corporatizing this company, this hospital company? And then after that, from one hospital company, how do you want to make it like a chain hospital? Like for example, how do you want to be like the next Medistra, the next Siloam, for example. What does it take for you to get there? This is what I mean by also going to the next level. Gitu. Dari kamu punya 2-3 hospital, nanti suatu hari dengan tambahan permodalan dari orang yang juga bisa punya expertise di hospital management, having an experience in terms of dealing with challenges in hospital management and things like that, will bring about, opportunity for you to grow your hospital platform, for example. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. What is your view of Danantara, Pak? Danantara kan istilahnya mereka konsolidasi istilahnya dari sekian banyak BUMN besar gitu ya, dengan harapan bahwa bisa punya leverage yang lebih besar juga gitu loh. Pak Alvin lihat itu akan menggairahkan M&A nggak di Indonesia?
I am very very optimistic and very hopeful at the same time of Danantara. Kenapa? Saya ngelihatnya mungkin dari a slightly different point of view as well gitu. We're talking more from the point of view how kita itu mungkin kalau even secara pribadi ya, kita kan memang selalu di-encourage untuk not just to save money but also to invest. Why? Gitu. Karena saving money ya, let's say you go put your money in time deposit, in savings, segala macam, earn so much interest. When you invest, actually by investing, there is also an opportunity for you to earn a yield that's a lot better. Something that would bring you to the next level. Again, I keep on saying, bring you to the next level. Even as a country, you need that, bring you to the next level. And as a country, of course, there are so many like demographic trend, for example. Misalnya contohnya, sekarang Indonesia mungkin enjoying a very good demographic profile ya dengan anak mudanya banyak. Tapi over time there will be like the older generations coming and things like that. In which case also the longevity. Orang kan makin lama juga umur makin panjang segala macam. Ya kita sebagai suatu negara ya harus juga provide for misalnya pensiunan segala macam. Dan dengan kita mengolah resources kita itu dengan menginvestasi, you'll be able to give yourself a chance, risk weighted, return profile yang lebih tinggi. Gitu. Nah, that's what I'm hopeful for Danantara. That's what I'm optimistic about Danantara. We're going in the right direction in that case. People keep on talking about like Danantara mau jadi kayak other sovereign wealth fund, Temasek segala macam. I go one level deeper to understand the philosophical and the fundamental needs as well for a country to, manage the resources better. Just imagine if, bukan sebagai kritik ya, tapi kayak misalnya you have all the dividends of the BUMN gitu. Akhirnya dividends-nya nanti kalau misalnya sebelum Danantara kan istilahnya dimasukin ke dalam state coffers.
State coffers,
yeah. But in this case, it is to be reinvested. I think that's where I'm coming from. Is it necessarily better to reinvest? I think that one is a matter of like the people doing it, of course, right? Make sure that you have a good framework in terms of investment and so on and so forth. Tapi it's better than not doing anything about it. Jadi ya istilahnya ya seperti kayak gitu ya. Kalau going to the state coffers, then you understand right, state coffers nanti APBN go to APBD kadang-kadang duitnya juga akhirnya muter-muternya di waktu zaman dulu kan kita sering dengar tuh duitnya muternya di BPD doang atau gimana. I would say probably what we need to do adalah to get something that is all before it gets reinvested down. I think it's better also to have like a much more so-called coordinated way of investing and make your state money work better in terms of yield.
Got it. Okay. What's the unique selling point of Bank ASEAN, Pak?
It is actually the strategic approach that we would have towards the deals in terms of the client situation, things like that. It is very, very granular, meaning we try to understand it as much as we can. We would hear it from our client first in terms of beyond financial, what is it that they like to achieve. That's why kesannya Bank ASEAN itu lebih cocok nih istilahnya buat the so-called family run company or private companies and so on and so forth gitu. Memang it is kind of like our natural client base untuk speak to a family run company, people who would like to go to the next level and things like that. We understand the challenges that they have, the kind of like fears and concern that they have in terms of going to the unknown, right? Misalnya contohnya gitu. And then at the same time, there is also the thinking about like companies yang istilahnya trying to go to the next level. Eventually, I want to go public atau gimana. Tapi seenggak-enggaknya, ya udah, we'll help you along. And with this kind of like differentiating point that I mentioned, strategic approach, kita itu bisa kasih solusi yang kasus per kasus lah, bespoke gitu about it. And it's also because like we are on the ground, then it's something that is we bring a very good understanding of the local context. And from the institutional investor standpoint, mereka juga jadinya sangat-sangat terbuka ya untuk bicara sama kita ya. Yeah, because basically they look to us as a partner who are on the ground, who understand the local context. So we have been approached by a lot of even like investment banks like us, but they are outside dari luar Indonesia. So there could be like I'm very optimistic about this, very encouraged by this as well, because that means that we can also expand our wings basically.
Any specific industry expertise atau mungkin certain deal size yang difokuskan oleh Pan ASEAN?
Kita traditionally have been a lot more involved in consumer, retail, healthcare, which are, I would say, the typical sektor-sektor yang investor memang suka gitu ya. But like I said just now, I'm actually quite sector agnostic, except for in case of real estate, in case of I would say natural resources, commodities gitu.
Okay.
Biasanya yang lain-lainnya, it's because like we also are a boutique investment banking firm, because we want to make sure that we also understand the industry that our clients are involved in. That's why we want to be quite focused in our sectors. Financial services is actually something that has been very, very interesting for me. I came, like you said, right? I came from a commercial banking background. When I was working in a commercial bank before, I understand banking. I understand how banking is now evolving. Like in some cases, we talk about digital banking and stuff like that. There is also the insurance company that we were kind of like managing as the bank owner of that insurance. There's also the finance company that we manage also as the owner as well in my previous career. So it gives me a very good perspective of the financial services sector. And also, how all the financial services actually has evolved quite a lot, right? Kalau dulu cuma ngomongin tentang traditional bank, kita ngomongin tentang balance sheet doang, asset, liability, third party fund, capital adequacy ratio, and so on and so forth. But now I'm interested in looking at, let's say, digital banking, for example. I'll be interested in insurtech. I'll be interested in like finance company and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you waktunya Pak Alvin. It's been very insightful. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure actually for me as well to exchange thoughts like this. Thank you.
Look forward to staying in touch, Pak.
Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teman-teman, begitulah pembicaraan kita dengan Bapak Alvin Tholib dari Pan ASEAN Investama. Silakan share, like, dan subscribe kalau memang konten ini bermanfaat buat Anda. Terima kasih.